Welcome back to a Slice of News, where I cut you off a slice of news. Finally, at long last, the Clintons are testifying before Congress as a part of the ongoing investigation into Jeffrey Epstein and how they're connected to it, but not in the public-facing hearing that they had previously requested. Instead, Bill and Hillary will be testifying in two closed-door sessions from their home in Chappaqua, New York. For many on the right, this is exactly what they've been waiting for. They've been saying that the Clintons are at the heart of the Jeffrey Epstein situation, and they look forward to Congress grilling them about just how deeply connected they are, and cited their previous ongoing reluctance to testify at all, to the point they were very nearly held in contempt of Congress, as absolute proof they had something to hide, and now they would be forced to reveal what they knew to the House Oversight Committee. But of course, the reality was that they were not refusing to testify because they were trying to keep information away from the public. Quite the opposite. They were refusing to testify because they wanted what they had to say to be available to the public instead of the closed-door sessions they are now being forced to testify behind. In a public hearing, anyone who wants to hear what they have to say can. In these closed-door sessions, the public will only get what the committee decides to allow to be released. If anyone seems to be trying to hide anything, it's the committee, not the Clintons themselves. And this near constant push to have Clintons testify is seen by many, including the Clintons themselves, as a distraction from the one who's really at the center of the Epstein thing, which is the president, Donald Trump. As one of the Democratic members of that House committee said, well, Republicans are trying to distract the American people from their failures to hold this Epstein administration accountable for their cover-up, the most egregious cover-up in American history. While former President Bill Clinton is definitely in the Epstein files and definitely has a lot to testify about regarding his personal connections with Epstein and what happened on his island, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton doesn't seem to have any direct connection to Jeffrey Epstein at all. She reportedly never met with him or communicated with him, so what exactly the House Oversight Committee is looking to get out of her is really anyone's guess. It could very well be that the Republicans on the Oversight Committee were pushing to have her testify less because of what she actually knew or had to say, but purely because of who she was. Republicans have felt like they've had a Hillary Clinton-shaped thorn in their side all the way back to her days as Secretary of State under President Obama, not to mention the president's very vocal dislike of her, something he certainly never made any secret of. So it could be very well they want Hillary Clinton testify before Congress because for them, getting her to testify is good optics for them. They can say they've got the Hillary Clinton in the hot seat, and now she'll have to answer their questions. Likely thinking back to a decade ago when the House Select Committee had her testifying for 9 hours during their investigation into the terrorist attack in Benghazi that killed the U.S. ambassador and 3 Americans. Those on the right, including President Trump in his initial presidential run, love to latch on to Hillary Clinton, Benghazi, Hillary Clinton, like it was some sort of gotcha against the Democrats, when in fact, her 9-hour testimony largely exonerated her and actually made her and the Democrats look better, not worse, and actually really helped boost her campaign when she was running for president against Donald Trump in 2016. So if Mrs. Clinton could come out of that testimony looking better than she did going in, there's actually a solid chance that we're going to see the very same thing happen this go-around. While it seems pretty obvious, husband Bill tied himself into this whole Epstein thing pretty tightly, it's going to be much more difficult to somehow tie Hillary Clinton into this when it seems she really has no connection to it. I'd almost wager that's part of why they've pushed to have these testimonies done behind closed doors, because if it was made public, it would be shown publicly just how pointless having her testify is, and how it's very clearly a purely politically partisan move on the part of the Republicans. They want so badly to have something stick to their old enemy Hillary Clinton, but it really is likely not going to work in their favor this time, any more than it did back in 2015, when she was testifying in her role as Secretary of State. And yeah, for sure, Bill Clinton is deep in this, and he needs to testify about everything he knows and answer all the questions that the committee has to ask of him. The American people deserve to know what he knew, when he knew it, and have him name as many names as he can name. But making it be in a closed-door session, to me, still doesn't sit right with me entirely. And let us not forget, as I said before, he was pushing for a public hearing. He wanted to tell what he knows, but he wants it in a setting where the public can hear it without having the ability by the committee to pick and choose what they're able to know and hear from what he testifies about. The Republicans on the committee demanding that his testimony only be done behind closed doors really lends credence to the belief that they are trying to hide certain facts and information from getting out publicly. I have very little doubt that what the committee ends up releasing will probably be heavily selective to favor their narrative that President Donald Trump is completely innocent. He has nothing to do with any of this Epstein stuff. Instead, hey, look, it's Bill Clinton. Pay attention to that instead. As soon as it was announced that the Republicans on the committee insisted that the testimonies had to only be done behind closed doors, it said to me, clearly, they are telegraphing they have something to hide. Because if their aim was really to the truth and getting unbiased answers to the questions that they're asking, there's no reason not to have made these testimonies public, as the Clintons had requested previously. The Clintons were so adamant that it was important for it to be public, they were willing to very nearly run into contempt of Congress simply to get it. And the fact that the Republican part of the committee refused says a lot about their priorities and what they are aiming to get out of these testimonies. I think those on the right just have this obsession with the Clintons. They've spent over a decade convinced that the Clintons are at the center of it, whatever it exactly is. So sure that they were responsible for all kinds of bad things. So they absolutely jumped on it when it came out that Bill Clinton was in photographs with Jeffrey Epstein in a hot tub with a girl whose identity has been redacted. He was in the flight log, so this was absolute proof, finally, that the Clintons are evil and they've been bad all along. But if that truly were the case, why would they both have been pushing for the full, unredacted Epstein files to be released? If Bill Clinton truly was guilty of all the heinous acts fans of the president really want him to be guilty of, why would he then want the release of the evidence of those acts? If I committed a crime, I then don't go petitioning to have the evidence against me released. Republicans may not like the Clintons, but I don't think that they're going to get the tidy resolution that they are hoping for from these testimonies. There absolutely is a cover-up of numerous abominable acts by Jeffrey Epstein and his associates, but that cover-up is not being perpetrated by Clintons, and ultimately their efforts to pin it on them is not going to work. The sitting president is far more culpable and deeply connected than even Bill Clinton. And the Republicans know that, but their laser focus on Clintons is very clearly designed to keep the focus away from those who they should really be looking at hard. I admittedly do not know the full extent of what Bill Clinton got up to with Epstein and on his island, but I am inclined to believe him when he says he didn't do anything wrong while he was there, and any ties he had with Jeffrey ended in 2006 when the facts of Mr. Epstein's numerous crimes began to come to light. Unquestionably, Bill Clinton is a very flawed man, and I have to acknowledge that a lot of the esteem I once held for him in my younger days has faded over time, as we've learned just how flawed of an individual he is. But I do not believe that he is tied to the awful things that Jeffrey Epstein did. And testimony he gives to the Oversight Committee, even if it is behind closed doors, will most likely corroborate that, much to the consternation of the Republican members of that committee. But if it did come out that he was, and Bill Clinton is guilty of awful things, I think he should be punished to the fullest extent of the law, just like everyone else in those files who also did very awful things. Would I be sad to learn just how bad Bill Clinton was and how he has to be sent to prison? Sure. I used to really like Bill Clinton. I would be disappointed to find that out. But I find it to be more important that justice be done than protecting a former president that I used to be a fan of. Everyone named in the Epstein files for having done crimes and assaulted girls needs to be punished. Full stop. Doesn't matter. Republican, Democrat, whatever. All of them. And that, of course, very much includes President Donald Trump, who is absolutely super culpable no matter what denials he puts forth and how protected those around him have made him. We do not yet know what the Clintons say in their testimonies. Hillary Clinton is testifying today and Bill tomorrow, but I really hope that what they do manage to reveal will be of some use towards getting justice for the victims, because ultimately I do think that that is their end goal. The Clintons want justice for the victims and punishment for the perpetrators, as does a majority of the American people. And I hope very much so that soon that's exactly what we will see. Alright guys, that'll be it for this episode of A Slice of News. I've been your host, Mr. Slice, and until next time when I cut you off another slice of news. And don't forget to rate and review the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you find it.